There's been a lot of changes to energy efficiency requirements, which is MEES, Minimum Energy Efficiency Standards, over the last 3 years, really. 2018 was the big change, April 2018, where they made it that we couldn't rent out a property or enter into a renewal of tenancy if your EPC rating was any lower than an E. So in order to enter into a new tenancy, your EPC has to be E or above. And if you renew a tenancy, your property has to be E or above. So what that means for those with F or G ratings, your property is no longer lettable under current regulations. In April 2018, when they brought this out, they said that there was a caveat to that. If the improvements cost the landlord any more than zero, the landlord could apply for an exemption. Well, of course, any improvement is going to cost more than zero unless full funding is available under Green Deal or anything like that. So what a lot of landlords did in 2018, and what I've spoke about at my seminar previously, is they got an exemption. The exemption was proposed to last for 5 years, but unfortunately they've now restricted that exemption will end in 2020. April 2019, the cost of zero was increased to £3,500. So if you now have a property that is below an E rating and you, for whatever reason, are not able to apply for an exemption under any other grounds, you as the landlord are expected to pay up to £3,500 to improve that rating and have it at an E. This caused more problems than I anticipated because I actually didn't realise within our portfolio of properties how many people had lower ratings than an E. Because if we're honest, I personally have shown no interest in the energy efficiency rating on properties because unless you're living there, it doesn't really have a bearing on you. And I've never known tenants to really be that bothered. But it has, for landlords, caused a big problem now because you do have to meet these minimum requirements or qualify for an extension. Sorry, not an extension.
Short-term and long-term.
An exemption. Say that again, sorry?
Short-term and long-term.
Short-term.
6 months or longer?
Any tenancy. Yeah. And as of April 2020, it's retrospective and we will have to go back over every single property that we own or manage and look at their rating too, because by 2020, they want all of the rented homes to be E or above.
Can you do that?
Can I do it?
Not you personally, but your company.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some other options out there as well with some suppliers that have access, that's the word I'm looking for, access to funding. And that's the route I'd suggest that anybody that does have a lower one start looking at it now, because funding will be more available now than it will in 2020 because everybody's going to be needing funding. So it'll be more available to you now. So just check the rating of your EPC and see if it affects you. Yes, sir.
I think there used to be an exemption if it was a listed property.
Yes, that still applies, but certain listed buildings. There are reasons why exemptions are possible. Another example is if you own a purpose-built, if you own a flat in a purpose-built block that the freeholder won't allow you to make improvements on to get the rating up, you will be able to obtain an exemption. But as a whole, if you are able to make the improvements and it doesn't cost you any more than £3,500, then you are expected to do so. Yes, my dear. It's quite interesting because EPC regulations came into play in 2007. So in 2017, all of the EPCs started to expire. And actually, EPCs that were carried out in 2007 that perhaps had an E rating was then carried out again in 2017, had a higher rating because the guidelines have changed. Which is better because actually the rating had improved, not decreased, so it was good. And I was also talking to an agent yesterday in the room of agents who said that there's actually 2 providers of EPCs, and I can't remember the names, but we did write them down. And one rating approved provider was rating them higher than the other rating provider. So 2 EPC assessors could provide different opinions on the rating. I have such a battle with landlords when I have to say to them, not all landlords, but some landlords, and the guys at the back will tell you, do you need to renew an expired EPC? Law and legislation is not clear that says yes, you do. But what you must remember, to serve a Section 21, you must have served it at the start of tenancy. It doesn't say you must have served it here, but if you've renewed, it's so grey that my recommendation to my landlords is, if you have an expired EPC, renew it. Because if you then try to go to court to obtain possession and the judge picks it up, you're in trouble. And do you want to be that case that shows you didn't renew it? So what I'm trying to say is there's no legal requirement like gas certificates that absolutely on the day that it expires you've got to get it done, and if you don't do it you're in breach of the law. But my recommendation to a landlord is an EPC is about 60 quid and it lasts 10 years. That's £6 a year. That's a good investment to be able to protect yourself if you need it in the future.